Why do we go to the forest in search of the divine? God lives in all and abides with you too. As fragrance dwells in a flower or reflection in a mirror, so the divine dwells inside everything. Seek, therefore, in your own heart. These opening words are from Tag Bahadur. We bid you welcome. We do not ask that you believe, we do not ask what you believe, or expect you to think a certain way, but only that you try to live a kindly and helpful life with the dignity proper to a human being. Welcome to all who believe that religion is wider than any sect and deeper than any set of opinions. Welcome all who find in our friendship strength and encouragement for daily living. Good morning, and welcome to the Universalist Unitarian Church of Farmington. My name is Barb Eglinton. I'm the program moderator for Program Council here and also a member of Sunday services. We work to make Sunday morning happen, so we're responsible to make sure that we have music and someone working on sound and ushers and someone up here. So if that, we always welcome other helping hands, so if you'd like to join our committee, you can talk to me after the service. This morning, we are fortunate to have a member of our congregation speaking with us today, Margaret Sullivan, and I will tell you a little bit more about Margaret a little bit later. I'd like to extend a special welcome to any visitors today. After the service, we invite you to gather and socialize with us, usually outside when the weather's nice. For everyone, at the end of the service, Linda will tell you more about this later, but we have our auction baskets for the auction next week, so don't forget to bid on a basket. When we are indoors, we are observing COVID precautions and wearing masks, regardless of vaccination status, unless you're speaking at the microphone. Religious educations are being held in RE classrooms during the service, and if you need to know where they're at, an usher can direct you. Joys and sorrows will be shared later in the service after the offering, and there's a few different ways that you can participate in joys and sorrows. There are blue cards in the pews that you can fill out and drop the card in the offertory basket when it comes around. You can text me, my phone number's on the first page of the order of service, or you can come up to the microphone. So lots of different ways to share. As we begin our service, we remember that our UU principles begin with our pledge to affirm and promote the inherent dignity of all people. We are a welcoming congregation. We welcome into our community all races, sexual orientation, gender identities, and belief systems. And I invite you to share with me in the affirmation of our vision, of our mission statement, which is in the order of service. We seek answers everywhere, include everyone, and live with compassion. And now is our time for announcements. I know Linda or Mark, or both, have an announcement.
Hey folks, Mark Petrie, fundraising committee here, and just a reminder, please register for the auction if you haven't already. I'd like to thank everybody for your generous donations. We've got plenty of donations again this year, and it's very exciting. One other thing is, what else did I want to say? Well, the weather's looking good right now, but just keep an eye on that. If we need to have alternative plans, we will figure that out and communicate to you. So if it does look like rain, the few days, coming into it, please be sure to check your email. We'll communicate with you that way and try to get a blast out to let you know about our alternative plans. But we're going forward one way or the other, so thank you very much. And our online auction is live right now, and Linda is here to tell you more about that.
Thanks, Mark. And by the way, we will have canopies up, though, on that night. So if it's a light rain, you could still survive it. But we probably would also send out a text blast, too.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah, text-free. So watch for that, as Mark said.
And can you just repeat the date and time?
Oh, this Saturday, the 17th, and food starts at 5, auction starts at 6. Yes.
Okay, so Bidding Owl, the instructions for signing up for that, that's where we're doing our silent auction this year, not having all the items here for people to wander around and mark down on paper. So the instructions for that were in the magnet, and not this past Friday, but the Friday before, the detailed instructions. But the link to Bidding Owl is in the e-blast that went out on Friday. You do need to register. You have to have an account with them. If you've not used it before, all you have to do is set that up, and then you can bid away on everything that's out there. We've got 52 silent auction items and all of those beautiful baskets that you saw as you came in. That QR code, for those of you who like QR codes, that's at the back in front of each basket. If you have a QR reader and you point your phone at it, that will take you directly to the page where all of the baskets are listed. You can choose how many tickets, raffle tickets you want. You put them in for each basket. It's an unlimited number of tickets that you can buy. And put them in your cart, but don't buy them yet. What we will do is the night of the auction, we'll take that and add it to everything else that you may have purchased or bid on, either in Bid Owl or at the live auction, and put it all into one invoice for you. So you only have to check out once for everything that you get at the auction. So again, for the baskets, just if you want to buy tickets, choose how many you want, and then just put them in your cart and leave them there, and we'll pick them up and that information and take care of it for you.
And how much is each raffle ticket?
$5 per choice, per raffle ticket. And again, reminder, we will be raffling them again that night at the auction as well. So if you have any questions, see Mark, see me. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Okay, please check our website and the e-blasts for other announcements of upcoming events. Please rise as you are willing and able for our first hymn, Spirit of Life, number 123 in the gray hymnal. Now I will introduce Margaret Sullivan. She is a longtime member of UUCF. She's a yoga practitioner, spiritual seeker, and teacher. Throughout the years, she's studied with countless teachers of many traditions and enjoys sharing the valuable knowledge that she's received with others. And I've taken a few classes from Margaret, and she's a wonderful teacher. I highly recommend her classes. Welcome, Margaret.
Thank you, Barb. So I'll start with today's reading. It's called Decide to Dream by Robert Muller. Decide to widely open the gates of your wonderful mind, heart, and soul. Let flow in the dreams of God, of the angels, saints, prophets, and sages. Give birth and let out into the world the dreams of your own unique, unrepeatable cosmic being. If not born for any other purpose, be born to dream, to love. Be born to fashion a better world. Dreams and dreamers never die. From heaven, you will see your dreams come true. You will reincarnate, inspire, and energize the new dreamers. The dreams of our beautiful planet of dreams will never die until we become the paradise that we were always meant to be and are about to now joyfully become. Thank you, Diana, for the beautiful music. Love that song. And good morning. Thank you for joining me today. Today, I would like us to think about our spiritual practices. So a spiritual practice can be defined as a practice that helps us to evolve and eventually attain a higher state of consciousness, which is often called enlightenment, and due to that, we become liberated from suffering. So everyone is on a spiritual path, whether we realize it or not. And each of us have different backgrounds, educations, interests, and personalities. So there is no such thing as one path that fits all. So that makes it our responsibility to find a path that suits our own personal needs. So what is the best way to do so? Let me start today by sharing a few of my own experiences. My earlier days in seeking were filled with countless workshops, lectures, courses, study groups, retreats, and such. I sought wisdom from people of different traditions who were considered highly evolved or enlightened in some cases. They included clergy, people of different traditions, monks, shamans, yogis, martial arts masters, healers, and as well as many lay people. And so I donated to their causes. I sat among their often mesmerized disciples. I took initiation into several traditions and have been sworn to secrecy a few times, even prostrated in front of a couple of their feet, just to see if it would result in some divine blessing as their disciples promised it would. So most of these gatherings were interesting, and they offered some intellectual stimulation as well as spiritual insight. But after a while, they kind of started blending together and seeming more or less the same. They may have used different terminology to describe things, or had different meditation techniques, or even in some cases they worship different deities. But they all kind of seem to be saying the same thing, that the human goal is to evolve the soul, and there's a higher state that can be attained by any one of us by doing some practices. Now, some traditions say that you can only attain that higher state upon death, physical death, while others would say that any one of us can attain it by making the right efforts in this body, in this lifetime. So I started changing. I continued to attend these events as I continued to progress on my path, but my reason for going there began to change. So I went for 3 different reasons. The first one was in search of those aha moments, those key pieces of information that will add to my puzzle and eventually complete that big picture to help me solve the mysteries of the universe. The second reason I started going was to listen to some of these interesting stories from teachers from around the world that hopefully I could use in my own teachings, because by then I was teaching myself. And the third reason was to observe the teacher or the master or the guru. So I started asking myself while attending these events, what makes that person the teacher and the rest of us the students? And is that person really enlightened? And just what does it mean to be enlightened anyway? And are these people really enlightened, or could they just be putting on a show? Because any one of us, if you think about it, if we practiced a little, we can create a nice speech full of wisdom, stand up on a stage and repeat it and tell it to an audience that is completely friendly and supportive, and we can walk off the stage giving them the impression that we are enlightened. But are they really enlightened, or are they just pretending to be? And maybe they think they are themselves, but who knows? So when I started asking these type of questions, my whole perception on the situation changed. And because of that, I was able to take my practice to a whole new level. So no matter who you ask, people like to believe that their practice is the best. If you are a Christian, you would say, oh, Christianity is the correct path, the right one. If you're a Buddhist, you'll say, oh, Buddhism is the best. So same for Hindus, Muslims, Jews, shamans, humanists, and yes, even atheists. Atheism, by the way, is a spiritual practice. It's a belief system as well. So we draw the line where our belief is the best, and we think that everyone else is secondary. And that's just the way the human ego works. Yet we all know that there are Christian people who identify as Christian who do evil, as well as people who identify as atheists who can be the nicest people we know. So the truth is that all spiritual practice have the ability of bringing us to the highest level as well as debasing us to a lower level. So the secret to success is making the correct efforts, no matter what path we choose. I'll tell a parable today of a cowherd and a yogi. So each morning, the cowherd walked his cows along this meadow, and he would see a yogi meditating under a certain tree. And this yogi had this inexplicable aura to him, and he always meditated with a gentle smile on his face. So the cowherd believed that that yogi was enlightened. So one day he decides that he was going to talk to this yogi. He wanted to know if a common man like him can also attain enlightenment. So one morning he waited around with his cows in the meadow until the yogi was done meditating. Then he went up to talk to him. And he said, "Hello, sir. I have seen you meditating under that same tree every morning for years now. You always look so peaceful, and you have this glow to you. I believe you are enlightened. Is this true?" And the yogi looked the cowherd straight in the eye and gently smiled without saying a word, as if to confirm the cowherd's assumption. So the cowherd asks, "Sir, I am a poor, uneducated cowherd, but ever since I was a little child, I secretly dreamed of becoming enlightened. And so I am willing to do whatever it takes to attain enlightenment. The only thing is, I have my household responsibilities. So as long as it doesn't interfere with my household responsibilities, please tell me if there's anything that I can do in this lifetime to attain enlightenment." So the yogi thought there for a moment and then asked a question. He said, "As a cowherd, don't you have a cow that is your favorite?" And the cowherd said, "Oh, yes, I do. She's right over there. That's the black one sitting over there. Her name is Maya, and I raised her since she was this tiny little baby, and she has the sweet personality." And so he went on and on and on. And so the yogi said, "Okay, good. Devote yourself to that cow. And from morning to night, take good care of her. Give her nice brushings in the morning, and hand feed her grass once in a while, and speak nice words to her. Pray for her and pray to her, and treat her like a goddess. And spend every one of your days devoted to her, and try this for a few years, and see what happens." So the cowherd thought that was kind of strange advice, but nevertheless, he said, "Okay, I'll try it and see what happens." So he started each morning giving the cow a nice brushing, speaking nice words to her. Also, once in a while, he would talk to her like he's talking to an old friend, telling stories. He prayed with her, prayed to her, fed her grass every now and then, and showered her with lots of love and attention. And so this went on for several years. And one morning, after he had brushed her and gave her a little grass, he was sitting in the meadows with the rest of his cows, with Maya very closely next to him. And as he sat there, he heard a voice say, "Thank you." So he shocked, he stood up and looked all around him. There was nobody there, nobody except Maya the cow right next to him. So he said, "Well, I must be imagining things." So he sat back down and started relaxing again. And a minute later, he definitely hears the words clearly, "I love you." And so at that moment, the cowherd became enlightened. So the next morning, the cowherd enthusiastically searched for that yogi meditating under the tree and told him everything that happened over the past years. And the yogi seemed surprised and then delighted to see the cowherd, who had this glowing halo around him, which indicated that, yes, he had indeed attained enlightenment. So he said to the cowherd, "I am so surprised and happy to see that you were able to attain enlightenment. And I must confess to you one thing, that when I told you to worship the cow, I was just being silly, and I did not think it would really work. So the point of that story is, it does not matter what practice we choose, as long as it is something that we can put our heart into, as long as we can delve into it with sincerity and passion. That is the right one for us. Has anyone here read the book called Tao Te Ching by Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu? Anyone? A few? If you haven't, it's a very good book. It's a classic, so I recommend that you pick it up one day. And this book opens with the statement, the Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. Now, Tao or Tao means the path. So the moment we start putting experiences into words, the mind takes over, and we have already drifted away from the truth. So let me explain this point with another analogy, an analogy of a potter. So a potter can make many objects out of clay, such as plates, cups, vases, pots, spoons, many, many objects. And to the average person, they would see those objects as unique and separate. For instance, a spoon is different than a plate. But as the potter advances and does his practice, and that is also a practice, he comes to perceive things according to their essence. So if he went to an artisan's market, like an art fair, and saw all the items that many people have created, he could easily pick out which ones were made out of clay. So he sees it, his perception changes. And humans also have many faces, like Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, Hindu, atheist, and so on. And to the uninitiated, they all are separate and unique. So if we are a Christian, we think that Christians might be more godly than the Buddhist. Or if we are a Buddhist, we might think Buddhism is superior to all the other teachings. Just like a spoon might seem more useful than a vase to some people. So this is the perception which stems from our ignorance. And once we attain the power of discernment, we are able to see the essence of the soul, which is beyond the external appearance that it has taken. So this, my friends, is the change in perception that is required for us to take our practice to a higher level. So that pretty much answers the question of what spiritual path we should choose. It is the one that we feel is right for us. And like anything in life, we make the most progress with things that we are passionate about. That is really good news because it means that we can change paths the moment we feel that we have hit a dead end with our current path. A practice that we may have been doing since childhood may not be useful to us anymore as a 40, 60, or 80-year-old. And this also means that we can follow multiple paths at the same time. And this can be very useful because it can help us find our own blind spots or to open our mind, to get rid of our closed-mindedness and see a bigger picture. So it is perfectly okay for someone to identify as a Christian Buddhist or a pagan Jew or a Hindu humanist or whatever combination works for us. And it doesn't have to be two. It could be multiple practices. Next question is, how do we go about it? Would we benefit more from a solitary practice to progress on our own, or would it be good to have a teacher? My thoughts on this is that I would say we can make a lot of progress on our own, but it is very helpful to have a teacher or teachers. It is like anything else in life. If you want to become a great surgeon, you study under a great surgeon. If you want to become a great chef, you study under a great chef. If you want to become a great musician, you study under a great musician. the same rule applies to our spiritual evolution. So people tend to choose their spiritual teachers based on their physical appearance and popularity. And we like to search for someone who fits that archetype of a spiritual master. And let's think about this for a second. When you think of a spiritual master, what type of person we think of? Usually it's somebody older, and more often than not, it's somebody of the male gender who usually has either a bald head or long white hair with a white long beard to match. Usually someone from a foreign country, sometimes speaks with an accent and wears a robe or some other exotic attire. So some modern-day gurus actually intentionally present themselves that way and take on that archetype look in order to gather more followers. Okay, so here's another story. I have lots of stories thanks to my years of attending these lectures. So this one's about a young Chinese kung fu teacher. So this young man studied kung fu since he was a little kid and became very skillful, where he actually won several competitions. And he decided, well, I'm going to teach kung fu to Westerners and make a living doing that in my life. So he opened a studio and started advertising. He was very good at what he did, but he was not getting many students, and he was struggling to pay his bills. So after a few months, he came to another he went to another martial arts master who happened to be my teacher at the time. So in addition to his martial arts skills, this man had, he was very creative and also had a good sense of humor. So he had been to the young teacher's house on several occasions and met the man's parents and grandparents, who all lived under the same roof. So the young teacher's grandfather was born and raised in China. He was old, male, Asian, had long hair and a long matching white beard, and wore a robe. Talk about archetypes. So if you ever seen the internet image of Lao Tzu, he resembled the internet images of the philosopher Lao Tzu. So my teacher gave the young man the following advice. Instead of using photos of himself to promote his business, he could use photos of his grandfather in the traditional Chinese robe. And my teacher also suggested that he visit the studio often in his Chinese robe and speak to his grandson in Chinese. So Grandpa was very happy to help out, plus he had nothing better to do at home. So he started commuting to the studio and speaking to his grandson in Chinese. And so the young teacher introduced his grandpa to his students, not by his real name, but by the simple name Master. So word got around that there was this Chinese kung fu master at the studio. And suddenly, he started getting a bunch of new students, and his practice flourished. And so some people may say, oh, that sounds a little deceptive. But the young man actually is very competent. He was a great teacher. It's just that his grandfather fit the archetype of a master better than he did. So Grandpa, in essence, became the master as well as the mascot of the studio. And businesses use mascots all the time, so there's really nothing wrong with that. So the point is really that if you feel that you can benefit from a teacher, by all means find one or many. And when doing so, it would be wise to base your decision, base your choice on their inner qualities and not their appearance or celebrity status. I know many people who went for the look and chose their teacher only to regret it later. So some useful questions to ask is, when choosing a teacher, is have they given themselves fancy titles? Some of them have like Shri Shri, whatever, Master Satguru, all these honorary titles that they put in front of their names. Do they sit on a high throne, a bejeweled throne, looking down upon everybody when they give their talks? Do they charge extra for the privilege of sitting close to them? Are they short-tempered or disrespectful of their disciples or their helpers? Do they expect VIP treatment wherever they go? Do they charge high fees for their teachings, especially as you go higher up in the teachings? Do they claim that they can personally lead you to enlightenment if you shut up and do what you are told? So believe me, I have seen it all. These are all red flags. A true master is somebody who is humble, somebody who lives a simple life, does not seek attention by promoting themselves on television or by advertising on billboards. If you find a teacher who flies around in a private jet and has multiple expensive cars in his fleet or is flaunting his fortune, chances are you are already more enlightened than this person is. So sometimes it helps to do a Google search. I found this very helpful, and I tell my students this as well, is if you find a teacher, do a Google search on them. If they've been around, if they're famous, somebody's got to have something to say about what they learned about this person the hard way. So finally, to clarify one point, just because a teacher is not enlightened does not mean that they can be helpful on our practice to help us get ahead in life and be a good teacher. In fact, there are many great teachers who live ordinary lives, and they are happy to share their wisdom. And they don't have to be somebody who teaches professionally. For instance, they could be someone like our grandpa or grandma, or a neighbor who seems to be really wise, or even somebody we met on the internet, a fellow seeker who has all this interesting knowledge that they have to share. So, and we can also learn from the not-so-great teachers, the ones that show us by example how not to live. So, to conclude the talk, there are 3 points I would bring up. Is one, seek answers everywhere. And that sounds kind of familiar. No, number 2, choose your path and teachers wisely. Check them out before jumping into things. And number 3, evolve your practice as you yourself continue to evolve. I bow to the light within us all. Namaste.
Thank you, Margaret. That was very enlightening. Now we'll take our offering. This offering will be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared hopes and values. If you're visiting with us for the first time today and you feel comfortable, we'd like you to stand and tell us your name and how you found out about us, if you're comfortable doing that.
Hi, I'm visiting. My name is Sid, and I'm a student of Margaret.
Oh, excellent. Welcome, Sid. Thank you. A perfect heart is one that has known love and loss, joy and sorrow. The perfect heart is one that has been shared. As joys and sorrows of our community are shared, please direct your energy, prayers, and meditations as a gift of compassion and strength. If you have a joy or sorrow, and I have received one text from. We will sing our second hymn, number 352, Find a Stillness. Our closing words today are from Bruce Lee. Empty your mind, be formless, shapeless, like water. If you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. If you put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. If you put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now, water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.